Donald Trump promised to make America great again. He promised to put America first. He promised to bend the world to Washington's will. But look at the scoreboard in 2026. Who is actually winning? US allies line up in Beijing. Chinese leaders roll out red carpets. Trade deals multiply. Photo ops bloom. Meanwhile, Trump fires tariff threats, picks fights, and turns alliances into transactional battlegrounds. The result is not American dominance. The result is strategic self-sabotage. The result is allies quietly hedging, diversifying, recalibrating, and drifting. And waiting patiently at the end of that road stands China, smiling. If Trump's actions push America's closest partners toward Beijing, if China markets itself as the stable adult in the room, if global publics see China rising and America normalizing into just another power, then is Trump accidentally becoming the most effective salesman for China's rise in history? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. Across Europe, across North America, across the global north, a pattern takes shape. Trump imposes reciprocal tariffs. Trump threatens new duties. Trump toys with territorial pressure over Greenland. Trump lashes out at leaders who look elsewhere. And China responds with speeches about multilateralism, dialogue, and free trade. While Washington weaponizes unpredictability, Beijing performs reliability. While Trump celebrates tariffs, China advertises stability. While Trump scolds allies, China courts them. If this trajectory continues, does Trump end up shrinking America's circle of trust while expanding China's circle of opportunity? Trump's worldview treats alliances as commercial contracts. Pay more or pay the price. Cooperate or face tariffs. Disagree and face punishment. But alliances never work that way. They rest on trust, predictability, and shared expectations. Trump replaces those foundations with raw leverage. The result does not produce obedience, it produces hedging. Countries do not break with America, they quietly diversify away from dependence on America. That space becomes China's opening. China does not need to overthrow the US-led order. China simply needs to present itself as a steadier option inside a shaking system. That is exactly what Beijing now does. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, Trump boasts that America is the hottest country in the world and urges Europe to copy his tariff-heavy model. On the same stage, Chinese Vice Premier Li Hifeng delivers a different message: support for multilateralism, support for free trade, opposition to unilateral acts, opposition to trade wars, and insistence on dialogue. He warns that retreat into isolation solves nothing. He frames China as defender of global economic rules. This contrast does not happen accidentally. It is calibrated. Trump plays the disruptor, China plays the stabilizer. In a nervous world, stabilizers gain customers.
To embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse. They are the heirs of yesterday's foolish fortune tellers, and I have them, and you have them, and we all have them. And they want to see us do badly, but we don't let that happen. They predicted an overpopulation crisis in the 1960s, mass starvation in the 70s, and an end of oil in the 1990s. These alarmists always demand the same thing: absolute power to dominate, transform, and control every aspect of our lives. We will never let radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country, or eradicate our liberty. America will always be the proud, strong, and unyielding bastion of freedom.
Before the rules, everyone should be equal. A very small number of countries should not enjoy privileges based on their own selfish interests. The world must not return to the jungle law, where the strong prey on the weak. All countries have the right to safeguard their legitimate interests. China has consistently emphasized development that benefits all. It seeks to drive shared prosperity with its trading partners and is committed to expanding the global economic and trade bee. China has never deliberately pursued a trade surplus. It is willing not only to be the world's factory, but also to be the world's market.
Analysts observe that China casts itself as a stable and responsible global actor amid disruption from the United States. Repeating loyalty to the United Nations and global rules alone already boosts China's standing, especially across the global south. But now, this message starts resonating in the global north as well. European leaders watched Trump threaten tariffs on their economies. They watched Trump float annexing Greenland. They watch him threaten more duties on European countries that resist his plans. Even when Trump later backs down, the damage sticks. Reliability does not mean never changing your mind. Reliability means not governing by impulse. China benefits from that comparison. The United Kingdom illustrates the shift. London approves a massive Chinese mega embassy. Britain advances talks over Chinese electric vehicle exports to Europe. Prime Minister Keir Starmer travels to Beijing seeking trade and investment deals. He plans to revive a UK-China CEO Council. None of this signals love for China. It signals economic calculation under strategic stress and duress.
Well, this visit has been a real success, particularly in opening up the market, and we've got a business delegation with us of 60 leaders, and you only need to spend 5 minutes with them to see what a difference it will make to our economy back at home. President Trump's comments, which I've seen, look to me as if they're directed more the Canadians than us.
He mentioned the UK.
Well, he did, and as you know, the US-UK relationship is very close, so we discussed this visit with his team before we came on the visit, and I think I'm right in saying that President Trump is expected to visit China himself in April. It would be foolhardy to simply say we'll ignore. And you know, the French president has visited and engaged. The German Chancellor is coming to visit and to engage. For the UK to be the only country that refuses to engage would be not in our national interest. One of the benefits of engaging is to not only seize the opportunities, but to raise those difficult, sensitive issues, which you can't raise if you're not in the room. You can't raise if you don't have a leader-to-leader meeting. On the question of the parliamentarians, I know it's a cause of concern, which is why I did raise it. And the response of the Chinese as a result of our discussions is that the restrictions no longer apply. And President Xi said to me that means that all parliamentarians are free to travel to China. Now that rather vindicates my approach, because that's only because we're here that we have had the engagement, and that has provided the opportunity for a leader-to-leader discussion on sensitive issues, as well as the opportunities that we've opened up through this visit.
Germany prepares its own high-level visit. Finland sends its prime minister despite concerns over China's support for Russia. Ireland's leader receives personal charm from Xi Jinping himself. One by one, doors open. Trump does not force these doors open. Trump just shuts his own door. Canada offers the clearest case study. Mark Carney becomes the first Canadian Prime Minister to visit Beijing since 2017. He leaves with a deal. China eases tariffs on Canadian agricultural exports. Canada eases tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Trump explodes. He threatens 100% tariffs on Canada. He accuses Canada of becoming a Chinese drop-off port for goods into the US.
China's strengths, for example, in electric vehicles, are formidable. They're undeniable. These are the most affordable and energy efficient and innovative vehicles in the world. And for Canada to build our own competitive EV sector, we need to learn from, partner with, and access and build supply chains with China. To help deliver on the full potential of these partnerships and to bring down costs for Canadians, we're going to start by allowing up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into the Canadian market at the most favored nation tariff rate, which is 6.1%.
Carney responds not with submission, but with strategic distance. He calls the global order ruptured. He tells Canadians that almost nothing feels normal in the US anymore. He says Canada must diversify trade beyond America. China receives the prize. Chinese EVs now move toward roughly 1/5 of Canada's EV market. Symbolically, this matters more than raw volume. It shows cracks inside what Washington hoped would remain a unified economic wall. Trump's pressure campaign produces leakage. China slips through. This pattern repeats elsewhere. Trump's trade war pushes Chinese manufacturers to expand supply chains into Southeast Asia. They find new markets beyond the US. They reduce vulnerability. China adapts. Trump hardens. Adaptation beats rigidity. Even analysts who caution against exaggeration admit a vacuum forms when the United States becomes more transactional. When Washington reduces diplomacy to deals, other powers step into neglected spaces. China fills some of them, Russia tries to fill others. It is not zero-sum by design. It becomes zero-sum by neglect. Trump claims tariffs strengthen America's hand, but a strong hand still needs partners willing to hold it. Public opinion data underscores the shift. In the European Union, only 16% of people now see the US as an ally. 20% see it as rival or enemy. That collapse does not reflect sudden affection for China. It reflects disillusionment with Washington.
European countries are now in a geopolitical quandary because the United States is not predictable and not being particularly friendly. And that's changed everything. So they have to not pivot, I think that's too strong, but they definitely have to diversify and they have to look at other opportunities. They, after all, should have some kind of strategic autonomy. They cannot jettison the all-important security relationship with the United States. But I think what they really are starting to do is to think about a world where it's not so straightforward, that in fact your economy is your greatest strategic asset and your greatest security asset. And China has to factor into that because of its size.
At the same time, China's reputation rises in key middle powers. In South Africa, more people see China as an ally than the US. In Brazil, similar proportions see China and America as allies. Trump's America inspires caution. Xi Jinping's China inspires optionality. Across Europe and America, many believe China will lead the world in electric vehicles and renewable energy technologies over the next decade. Leadership in future industries equals gravitational pull. Countries want access. Countries want investment. Countries want market entry. China looks like the workshop of tomorrow. America looks like customs office of tomorrow. Trump's global image also deteriorates. People increasingly view Trump as good at defending American interests, but bad at producing global stability. That distinction matters. A world tolerates selfish powers. A world resists chaotic ones. China understands something Trump ignores. Power rests not only on coercion, but on reassurance. Not only on fear, but on expectation. Not only on punishment, but on predictability. So China keeps repeating the same lines: multilateralism, dialogue, shared future, rules-based order, cooperation. Even when skeptics doubt sincerity, the messaging fills space Trump abandons. To sum up Beijing's posture perfectly, never interrupt your adversary when he's making a mistake. China does not need to confront Trump's worldview head-on. China allows it to run its course. Each tariff threat becomes another Chinese opportunity. Each insult toward allies becomes another Chinese handshake. Europe now faces a bleak self-image. Europeans feel pessimistic. They doubt their collective power. They fear war. They fear nuclear escalation. They also understand that the old transatlantic certainty no longer exists. In that psychological environment, China's promise of stability, even imperfect stability, gains value. None of this means Europe suddenly trusts China more than America. It means Europe trusts unpredictability least of all. Trump embodies unpredictability. China embodies planning. That contrast alone reshapes behavior. China increasingly views the European Union as a partner rather than a threat. According to a survey by the European Council on Foreign Relations, only 19% of Chinese see the EU as a threat. 46% see it as a partner. They perceive EU policy toward China as distinct from US policy. Europe becomes, in Chinese eyes, its own pole in a multipolar world. Trump fractures Western alignment. China benefits from the fragmentation. Trump did not design a grand strategy to accelerate multipolarity, but his actions produce exactly that outcome. America shifts from system leader to transactional great power. China rises from system participant to system influencer. That transformation favors Beijing. Trump still believes pressure equals dominance. Reality shows pressure without trust equals erosion. Erosion does not make headlines. Erosion changes history. The ultimate irony cuts deep. Trump wanted to decouple the world from China. Instead, he decoupled America from unquestioned leadership. He wanted to weaken China's gravitational pull. Instead, he increased it. He wanted to make America great again, and he ended up performing the geopolitical equivalent of venture capital for China's rise. China does not conquer this moment. China inherits it. Not because Beijing suddenly becomes virtuous, not because China offers a perfect model, but because Trump turns allies into customers, partners into suspects, and diplomacy into spectacle. Great powers rise when rivals sabotage themselves. In the 2020s, that sabotage wears a red tie and speaks in tariffs. Trump shouts American greatness. The world quietly hears Chinese opportunity. Thank you for watching Statecraft.